For decades, Julia Roberts has been Hollywood's golden girl, the radiant smile, the effortless charm, and the star who brought audiences to tears and laughter in equal measure. From Pretty Woman to Erin Brockovich, she ruled the screen with warmth and grace, becoming one of the most beloved actresses of all time. But behind her dazzling success and iconic career, Julia's life has been marked by pain, loss, and heartbreaking struggles that even fame couldn't protect her from. Now 57, Roberts has quietly endured personal tragedies that have left lasting scars. From a deeply fractured family life and the shocking death of her sister to public betrayals and private grief, her story is far from the fairy tale the world once imagined. While she built a life millions envied, the truth behind the headlines reveals a woman who's fought hard to hold her world together and who's paid a heavy price for her peace. Those who know Julia describe her as resilient, spiritual, and fiercely private, a woman who hides her pain behind that million-dollar smile. Yet, in recent years, she's begun to speak more openly about the emotional toll of fame, family loss, and heartbreak. Her story isn't about scandal, it's about survival, and as she enters her late 50s, Julia Roberts' journey stands as a haunting reminder that even the brightest stars carry shadows the world. From the moment Julia Roberts lit up the screen in Pretty Woman, the world fell in love with her. Her smile became one of the most recognizable in Hollywood, wide, genuine, and filled with warmth. Audiences saw her as America's sweetheart, the down-to-earth girl who made it big without losing her charm. But while Julia's rise to fame looked effortless from the outside, her journey was shaped by pain, insecurity, and heartbreak long before the spotlight found her. Born in Smyrna, Georgia in 1967, Julia grew up in a small-town home filled with both love and turmoil. Her parents, Betty Lou and Walter Roberts, were struggling actors who ran a local theater. Though they shared a deep passion for performing, their marriage was far from stable. When Julia was just 4 years old, her parents divorced, leaving her mother to raise 3 children on her own. It was a difficult time. The family had little money, and Julia often felt the weight of absence and uncertainty. Her childhood wasn't glamorous. She spoke later about growing up feeling awkward, shy, and insecure, far from the confident movie star the world would one day see. But even in those early years, there was a spark in her, a natural charisma that drew people in. When her brother, actor Eric Roberts, found early success in Hollywood, Julia followed in his footsteps, hoping to make her mark. What she didn't realize was that fame would come quickly, and so would the price. Her breakout came in 1990 with Pretty Woman, the film that turned her into a global phenomenon. Suddenly, she was the most sought-after actress in the world, earning millions and dominating the box office. Yet behind the glamorous red carpets and glowing interviews, Julia was struggling to adjust to her new reality. The endless scrutiny, public relationships, and constant pressure to be perfect began to take a toll. As her career soared, her personal life became a constant headline. Her engagement to Kiefer Sutherland ended dramatically just days before their wedding, sparking a media frenzy. Friends later said the heartbreak left Julia shaken and wary of love. She began to retreat from Hollywood's social scene, craving privacy that fame no longer allowed. Even at the height of her success, those close to her said Julia often felt lonely. The same public that adored her on screen didn't see the quiet, introspective woman behind the smile, someone who was still healing from old wounds and struggling to navigate the chaos of celebrity life. Her warmth on camera masked a deep vulnerability, one rooted in a lifetime of trying to hold things together when everything around her felt uncertain. Despite her struggles, Julia's resilience became her greatest strength. She kept working, delivering one powerful performance after another, from Steel Magnolias to Erin Brockovich, a role that earned her an Oscar and solidified her place in history. But even as the awards and accolades poured in, the pain in her personal life continued to follow her, shadowing her success. The world saw the laughter and charm. What it didn't see was the heartbreak, the fractured family relationships, the grief she carried in silence, and the private battles she faced away from the cameras. Julia Roberts was living a dream that millions envied, but the cost of that dream would soon reveal itself in ways that even she couldn't have imagined. Never sees. Behind Julia Roberts' graceful public image lies a family story marked by heartbreak, distance, and tragedy. While the world saw her as Hollywood's golden girl, her family life was anything but picture perfect. The Roberts family had always been complicated, a mix of love, ambition, and unresolved pain that followed Julia well into adulthood. Her relationship with her brother, Eric Roberts, was once close but grew strained over time. Both siblings were talented and ambitious, yet fame came between them. In the early years, Eric's success helped Julia get her start, but as her career skyrocketed and his began to fade, tension slowly built. Reports of jealousy and family disagreements surfaced, and soon the two went years without speaking. Though they have since reconciled, those years of silence weighed heavily on Julia, who longed for family unity amid the chaos of her Hollywood life. But the most devastating chapter in Julia's family story came with the tragic loss of her half-sister, Nancy Moats. Nancy, who struggled with depression and the pressure of living in Julia's shadow, died by suicide in 2014. The news shattered Julia and her family. Though the two had been estranged at the time, the loss left Julia grief-stricken and guilt-ridden. Insiders revealed that she withdrew completely from public life after Nancy's passing, canceling appearances and turning inward to cope with the immense emotional weight. For Julia, Nancy's death was more than just the loss of a sister. It was a haunting reminder of how fame can fracture families in ways that are impossible to repair. She reportedly blamed herself for not doing more to mend their relationship, and those close to her said she spent years quietly carrying that guilt, adding to her pain. Julia also had a complicated relationship with her late mother, Betty Lou. While Betty was her biggest supporter and the woman who inspired her strength, their bond wasn't without tension. Betty's influence was strong, sometimes too strong, and Julia struggled to balance her loyalty to her mother with her own need for independence. When Betty Lou passed away in 2015, just a year after Nancy's death, Julia was left devastated. Losing two family members in such a short time crushed her emotionally. In interviews following those losses, Julia began to open up in subtle ways about her grief. She didn't seek sympathy. Instead, she spoke about gratitude, faith, and the importance of forgiveness, lessons she had learned the hard way. It became clear that her radiant public persona was masking years of emotional turmoil. Through it all, Julia remained fiercely protective of her children and husband, cinematographer Danny Motter. The stability she built with them became her sanctuary, a way to create the family harmony she had always longed for. Friends say she poured all her love into that household, determined to give her children the sense of safety and unity she once lacked. But even now, the shadows of the past remain. Julia Roberts may smile for the cameras and light up the screen, but deep down, she carries the memories of a family torn apart by fame, pain, and loss. Her tragedies aren't just part of her past. They are the quiet, unseen scars that have shaped who she is today. For all her charm and grace, Julia Roberts has always been one of Hollywood's most private stars. She rarely shares personal details, preferring to let her work speak for itself. Yet behind her composed demeanor lies a lifetime of private battles, moments of loneliness, insecurity, and emotional struggle that few ever suspected. Fame, as dazzling as it seemed, came with enormous pressure. Julia was barely in her 20s when she became a household name, and overnight every move she made was dissected by tabloids. Her relationships, from her broken engagement to Kiefer Sutherland to her brief marriage to country singer Lyle Lovett, became public fodder. The media painted her as everything from America's sweetheart to Hollywood's runaway bride. What they missed, however, was the toll this constant scrutiny took on her spirit. Those close to Julia say that she struggled deeply with trust. Betrayal in friendships, invasion of privacy, and the endless cycle of gossip made her wary of opening up to anyone outside her small inner circle. Even as she smiled for cameras, Julia often retreated from the noise of Hollywood, choosing solitude over the spotlight. She longed for normalcy, a quiet morning with her children, a simple dinner at home. But her fame made those moments increasingly rare. In private, Julia also battled self-doubt. Despite her success, she often questioned whether she deserved the adoration she received. The industry's obsession with perfection only fueled her insecurities. Aging in Hollywood, especially as a woman, came with its own cruel realities. As younger stars began to dominate the screen, Julia faced the painful pressure of staying relevant. Friends revealed that she sometimes worried her time in the spotlight had passed. Though she never admitted it publicly, her emotional struggles were compounded by the grief she carried from her family's tragedies. Losing her sister and mother within such a short span left her shaken. For years, Julia avoided speaking about it, throwing herself into her work instead. Acting became both her escape and her therapy, a way to process emotions she couldn't express elsewhere. In roles like August, Osage County, she channeled her pain into raw, powerful performances that mirrored her own inner turmoil. Even in her marriage to Danny Motter, which has lasted more than 2 decades, a rarity in Hollywood, Julia faced challenges. Balancing a high-profile career with raising 3 children and maintaining privacy was no easy task. Rumors of tension and separation often swirled, but those who knew her said she fought hard to protect her family from the public chaos. Home was her refuge, and motherhood, in many ways, became her salvation. In her late 50s, Julia began to reflect more openly on the cost of her success. She once admitted that fame took away the quiet, leaving little space for personal growth. Meditation, spirituality, and time away from the spotlight became her lifelines. She discovered peace in simplicity, gardening, cooking, and staying grounded with her family. But perhaps her greatest private battle was learning to forgive herself and others. She's endured betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, yet she's never allowed bitterness to define her. Instead, she's chosen grace. Those who have worked with her describe her as gentle but strong, a woman who has been through more than most but refuses to let pain consume her. Behind the world's most famous smile is a story of endurance, of a woman who faced fame, loss, and heartbreak, yet still found the courage to keep smiling. Today, at 57, Julia Roberts radiates a quiet strength that only comes from surviving life's deepest storms. Her journey, filled with triumphs, heartbreaks, and reinvention, has shaped her into a woman who no longer seeks perfection or applause, but peace. After years of living under the weight of fame and personal tragedy, Julia has finally learned what truly matters. In interviews over the past few years, her tone has changed. She speaks less about Hollywood and more about gratitude, motherhood, and balance. "My family is my everything," she once said, and she meant it. Her husband, cinematographer Danny Motter, and their 3 children have become the steady center of her life. Away from the red carpets and bright lights, Julia has found solace in ordinary routines, cooking dinner, spending time outdoors, and nurturing the kind of love she once thought was out of reach. For Julia, healing didn't come all at once. It was slow, fragile, and deeply personal. She started prioritizing privacy, moving away from Hollywood's chaos to live a quieter life surrounded by nature. Friends describe her as grounded, someone who no longer defines herself by movie roles or headlines. Instead, she finds joy in small moments. Laughter with her kids, morning coffee on her porch, the comfort of stillness after years of noise. Spiritually, Julia's journey has been profound. She's spoken about faith and self-discovery, often emphasizing forgiveness, not just of others, but of herself. Losing her sister and mother forced her to confront pain she had buried for years. Through that process, she learned to let go of guilt and find meaning in her grief. "You never move on," she once said, "but you move forward." Those words reveal the wisdom of someone who has endured loss, yet refused to be broken by it. Professionally, Julia has also evolved. No longer chasing stardom, she's become selective with her roles, choosing projects that reflect who she is now, thoughtful, mature, and introspective. Films like Ben is Back and Ticket to Paradise remind audiences that Julia's brilliance isn't tied to youth or glamour, but to authenticity. She's proven that longevity in Hollywood isn't about being the loudest star, but the truest one. Her marriage to Danny Motter, once scrutinized by tabloids, has grown stronger over time. Friends say the couple found balance through respect and shared values. While Julia once thrived on the adrenaline of fame, she now thrives on love that feels real, the kind that exists away from cameras and crowds. Danny, who has always shunned the spotlight, gave her the stability she craved after years of emotional turbulence. And perhaps most importantly, Julia has made peace with her past. She no longer tries to outrun the pain of her family's tragedies or the pressures of her younger years. Instead, she embraces them as part of her story, the dark chapters that made the light more meaningful. Her resilience has become an inspiration not just to fans, but to anyone who's ever had to rebuild their life after loss. At 57, Julia Roberts is no longer the wide-eyed newcomer Hollywood once adored. She's something far greater, a woman who has faced heartbreak, survived it, and emerged with grace. Her smile remains as radiant as ever, but now it carries depth, the quiet confidence of someone who's seen both sides of life and chosen hope over despair. The tragedy of Julia Roberts may be heartbreaking, but her strength, the way she's turned pain into purpose, is what makes her story truly unforgettable.